We're
are.
back and ready to keep fucking robots. I mean,
What?
Keep playing this game. What?
Oh, man. I thought maybe I fell asleep during the last episode and some cool shit went down, but I'm ready to go. Fucking robots, man.
Yeah, we wait till you fall asleep and then you fuck robots. You don't even know about it.
Yes.
Guilt-free.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry, honey. I was asleep. I didn't even know. It's a robot. All right, man. This is amazing. Welcome to Ready Player 2 with your boys, CraigMakk and...
Serious Jest.
Yes, sir. All serious,
The
no
Android
jest.
molester.
Oh, no. Oh, I don't even know. We're bringing that guy back again. We're bringing that guy back again. It's already off the rails. I don't know if you know this, Jest. I've already been drinking, so this one's gonna be fucking crazy.
Oh shit! Yeah, not me. I've been drinking a lot of liquids, but not beer yet. So I'm ready to start on my beer. I actually.
Oh, you're having a dry month? Perfect. Awesome.
No. I picked. I actually picked. I picked these beers out. I picked like 2 different beers out for our next couple of episodes out of my liquor store like a week ago, and then we haven't done one ever since. And I'm like sitting here looking at these in the fridge every day, like I can't wait to drink you, but I can't yet. So definitely a lot of restraint.
Nice.
Yeah, exactly. So I've been drinking some of like the older ones instead. But anyway, to get to it real fast. So if you are listening live, we'll catch you up like really quickly before we start the next episode, which is called The Bridge. If you are not watching live, this is Ready Player 2, and it's basically a show where we play video games together and drink. In this particular case, we're doing Detroit Become Human, the David Cage's latest game. I have played it all the way through before. Craig is now playing it through, and the stories change like a butterfly effect. Yes. All right, so I would highly encourage you, if you're watching this on YouTube or it's a Twitch video that's still up, I would highly encourage you to stop this now, go back and watch Mission 1 and catch up. Really, the gameplay is only between 5, 10, 50 minutes at most in most of the missions, so you could catch up really quickly. I mean, they're like, if you look at some of the episodes, they're like an hour long, 2 hours long. One of them was like 3 hours long, because what we also do is discuss kind of what we played through, how it may impact the real world, anything it reminds us of in our lives. Basically, it's up for we just talk outside of playing the game. If you want to skip all the talking and get right to the gameplay, just drag your cursor through the YouTube thing until you see actual what looks like video gameplay, and then just watch that and then catch up that way, because every story is different when you play this game depending on who's playing it, and Craig's has already proven to be different than mine. So so that being said, let's get to the drinking part. Craig, what's on your menu today?
Yes. Well, as Jess said, we pretty much every single time have a special beer that fuels us, that gives us the energy to make it all the way through. And
beer of the show.
Our beer of the show. For me, I really did. I took the fueling myself through this one very seriously. For those of you who may know, we also have a Discord channel where we will post that in a minute, but that's where we have our conversations, talk about things that are all live from the man cave, all Ready Player 2, everything about our live from the MCU, a whole nother, a little tabletop RPG game that we have going on with our buddy Jim Sardonic. But one of the things we talk about the beers that we're drinking, and I had posted in there a couple of beers. One that I had earlier, which is what I had alluded to, the fact that I was already drinking. I had already had an Imperial, it was an Imperial, God damn, why am I blanking on it right? Wow, I am drinking.
Stout?
No, it wasn't ale. It wasn't ale, but it was a pumpkin ale. It was a pumpkin ale. It was a Long Trail pumpkin ale.
Shit.
So that was 8%, and that was, I know obviously pumpkins are out of season now, but it was one that I had been sitting around on for the last like 6 months, so I decided it was time to have it. I had it with some dinner, which was pretty great. So I enjoyed that at 8%, and now I'm ready to move into my beer of the show to fuel me.
Beer of the show.
Yes. Beer of the show is, so are you familiar at all with Epic Brewing?
No, not right off the top of my head.
So Epic Brewing is they're based out. They are Salt Lake City, Utah, and Denver, Colorado, and they have a couple of different kinds of like. They have a couple of different series that they do. They're like big beer series. They have their like heavy hitters in terms of alcohol content. One of them they have is called their Exponential series. And the
it just
one
jumped into my head. I wonder how many brewers in Colorado are now experimenting with weed in their beers.
I wonder. We should
THC
do an entire show about that. Let's put that in the show notes as something we could do a thing on. That would be an interesting one to talk about.
Put that in the back burner.
There you go.
Put that in your pipe and smoke it.
So this one is Epic Brewing's Exponential Series. It's called Big Bad Baptiste Imperial Stout. Okay.
So so the Exponential Series. Somebody. Baptist. Yes. In our Discord server, was it Jim just posted a Epic Series beer?
No, that was me. I had just posted this one to say that this was the one. I posted a picture of this beer that I just picked it up in case we could play tonight. And then Jim had actually asked, he's like, oh, I'd never heard of Epic. What are they about? So that's when I had written, I was just saying, hey, you guys should look up some of their Exponential Series. They have some heavy, like I think they have one called the Levitating Series or the something. They have the whole other one. I'll look it up in a minute, but they have another one that is a series of beers that kind of like they brew them and get higher in alcohol content. So you can kind of try like the highest alcohol kind of down or down up and try them in different ways. So they do a bunch of different kinds of series like that where they try out different things. And this one, the Big Bad Baptist.
Which one is this one?
This is the Big Bad Baptist Imperial Stout, which is this one they do. It's a seasonal release that they do a limited number of them. And they have each one is a different dark roasted coffee. So that's why we were talking about my fuel for the series today. This one is a stout with cacao nibs or cocoa nibs, but they say cacao nibs, and coffee added and aged in whiskey barrels. And each year they always use a different coffee. So it says it's big, it's bad, bourbon barrel aged imperial stout with coffee and cocoa nibs. One big bad imperial stout with cocoa nibs and coffee beans. And the ABV may vary depending on the season. So this one is release number 107. And it says, you are holding something special, one of only a few thousand bottles released. Are you intrigued? Visit www.epicbrewing.com to explore this limited brew's precise details. So this has one where it's like stamped on the side, so you can see it's release number 107. And this one is specifically, it is 12% ABV. So,
dude, so it's the Big Bad Baptist Imperial Stout. Yeah, I'm looking at it on the website. There are all kinds of flavors on here that I would fucking love to try. So Jim Sardonic in our chat recently talked about expanding your fucking beer palette, right? This would be a good fucking brewer to start with. Looks like they even have one that's Brainless on Cherries, Belgian style ale, which reminds me of like Three Philosophers.
They have multiple brainless. Three philosophers. So the Three Philosophers, which is amazing. They have multiple brainless, and they have brainless on cherries, brainless on raspberries, I believe. They have they have a bunch of different kinds. They have different sours with different types of beers that they do, or different different types of fruit. So Epic, I cannot recommend them enough as a straight-up brewer in terms of if you want to try some crazy shit, some shit that you haven't had before, they definitely do some crazy stuff with their beers. So
I am fucking jealous right now.
So I am super pumped to try this one out. And one of the things
before you take your first sip, Craig, what are you drinking it out of? Like what kind of glass?
Yes.
The website recommends either a snifter, or a tulip white wine.
Yes. So that is actually perfect that you mentioned. Yes, it's perfect that you mentioned that one because I actually just got my my Game of Thrones little kind of mini tulip that you got. Shit. Remember that one? So I have that glass that you gave me that I'm using specifically for this because it is
nice.
Instead of you're not like we've talked on the show of something that we want to get a little bit deeper into on Live from the Man Cave, but about the ways different glasses kind of open up the different tastes and smells of different types of beers, and there's a reason why a lot of when you go to the bar, they'll typically a regular bar will just give you a pint glass because they're just the easiest and kind of the most the most kind of ubiquitous. They're just everywhere. But in terms of the actual value, they really do nothing. In a lot of ways, you're probably better off just drinking it right out of a bottle. For most good beers, not for if you're just gonna have a regular beer, it's fine. But for this kind of thing, the reason why they recommend these is because of the way that the shape of the glass actually changes. The smell, it opens up in terms of surface area, what gets access to the air versus what when the weight flows to the bottom of a tulip glass versus a pint glass versus a snifter versus all these kind of things. So it's pretty cool. So I definitely moved to an appropriate glass for this one. I'm about to pop it open and let's see.
And if you have any hard cheese or dark chocolate desserts available, it says you should pair them with that too.
Yes.
The dark chocolate dessert, I would think, would have to also like have the dark chocolate will have to be part of it, but it would have to be offset by, because then you just be piling, you know, dark chocolate on top of cocoa nibs and coffee beans. Right. It's the same kind of taste.
You would be layering a little bit too much for. We've talked about that also, right, on this show. That
Yep.
I'm not a huge fan of the layering on top of one another. I kind of like to be a counterpoint as opposed to a,
Right.
you know, just the same thing you're already having. But dude, this one is so you get an equal smell, like immediately, just from popping open the top of the chocolate and the coffee. And I'm not saying like in the way where we've talked in the past, where sometimes the chocolate is just an element of the like roasted malt. So roasted malt can kind of give you a bit of a chocolatey like smell or flavor to it, but it's not actually chocolate, you know. Whereas this, obviously,
Right.
having them using cocoa nibs or cacao, right, in it, you're actually getting the legit chocolate. So you're smelling both the coffee beans and the cocoa beans, as opposed to just getting like that roasted malt flavor that can kind of fool your brain into being chocolate or, you know, or coffee. So that right out of the gate, it is delicious. This smells unbelievable. It's waking me up immediately just from taking the smell of it. It is. I mean, it is thick as shit. I mean, it is straight up like motor oil thick, which looks amazing. It actually comes out almost a little syrupy, which I like. All right, let's check this bad boy out.
Personally, I've been favoring stouts lately in the way that I used to favor IPAs.
I agree. I have been making a pretty strong transition. I mean, part of it is, you know, maybe seasonal, just because of this time of year. But in general, I mean, when given an opportunity, I walk into a place that has like a really good beer menu. I've trended a lot more towards trying some of their stouts in the way that like a year or so ago, I would have been like all up on the IPAs. I also do like that stouts try a lot of cool stuff now, right? Like they're the ones that like they'll have like maple syrup in them, or, you know, chocolate, or you'll have like, you know, like a raspberry mixed with the coffee beans and things like that. Whereas obviously like IPAs are much more going towards you kind of know what you're getting. It's the citrus flavor. It might be piney. It might be that, but like they're not, you know, it's not going to really go. Whereas this, you could be like, oh, it's peanut butter and fucking jelly, right, mixed into a stout. And you're like, all right, why not? Let's fucking try it. So let's see. Let me take a sip of this bad boy. I'll let you know. Oh fuck, dude. Oh my god. Oh, this is absolutely unbelievable. So it is. So I know you've talked about it a lot as one of your favorite things is when they kind of transition in the middle, and this, or you know, when they're not competing, but they're like almost the flavors. The flavors are kind of counterpointing one another without being like, you know, punching you in the mouth, fighting for control. They're almost like they mix very well. This one is almost like on the front end, you taste the coffee kind of like almost like you're having like an iced coffee, and then as it's literally hitting the back of your tongue, you're getting like a chocolate mocha flavor to it, and it's very roasty, so you're getting almost like a s'mores, you know, like a chocolate being roasted over a fire type thing. It's dude, this is outstanding. It is definitely also 12%. I mean, like, you know, we've talked also about beers where you're like.
By the way, is it 12.0%? Like, is it 12% flat?
This one is 12 flat. Yes, it says they can go anywhere. I think they're between like 10 and 12.7 or 12.8, depending on the year over the last few years. But this one, the release 107 is exactly 12%.
I was wondering why. So like I'm on the website for the company, and I can't find an ABV for this one.
Yes.
And that's why, man. That's crazy. So like they the batch, just depending on the batch.
Yep.
You can't even. Wow. That's impressive.
So each year they only make a few thousand bottles, and it's a limited release with a certain type of cocoa bean and coffee, or coffee bean and a certain recipe. So it's kind of like.
You got this from your local liquor store?
I did. I got this from the local one right down the block. Yep. So they have this one.
Talk to my liquor store owner. Tell him he needs to step his game up.
Yes. Big Bad Baptist. Highly recommended it. I am going to sip on this and enjoy the shit out of this tonight. So this is going to be awesome. So
we maybe an idea for a future show is we should have like a battle of our fucking liquor stores.
Oh yeah.
And just leave it up to our owners to like come up with what they think is the most rare and awesome taste, and then we do like a taste test amongst us and maybe a few lucky man cave fans.
Oh, that would be phenomenal.
show
That
up
would
at the
be
man
awesome.
cave.
Hell yeah. Oh, I'm down with that. That would be awesome. We
Bam,
should definitely do that.
spitballing here. Heard it here
All right,
first.
there you go. That's going to happen.
So,
By the way,
right,
one
so
thing, while I was
mine-
looking this up, I just wanted to throw this out real quick. While I was looking it up, I went
Sure.
on Rate Beer to just to see information, because I know I'm trying to like wait until after I taste it to check it out, since this was a brand
That's
new one to
good.
me. So this one, just so you know, on Rate Beer, within the style, it is so you know they do an overall and a style rating. Within the
Right.
style, it is rated 97 out of 100,
Jeez.
and as an overall, it is rated 100 out of 100. So this
What?
one is a fucking winner on Rate Beer. So I just wanted to throw
So
that
then
out there.
for just based on what you just said, then on Rate Beer, like the stout must be the like overall best. Then if you're 97 among stouts and 100 amongst
That would
like
be my
general
that would be
beers.
my assumption. Yeah, that would be my assumption is that
that's-
they are.
See, so
Yeah.
it's like the trends are following our taste buds,
Yes,
CraigMakk.
we're already
People
ahead of the
say we're
game.
into stouts and we're the tastemakers here. People
There you go.
people like what we like.
Awesome, man.
By the way,
We're
again,
killing
back
it.
just as a sanity check, real quick, or as a check back to something I asked about before you tried it. You
Yes.
said food pairings would be hard cheeses and dark chocolate desserts. Can you see this as that?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely,
Those being good?
this would be perfect. Like something that was a biting cheese. I think would be awesome with this, because it's like the counterpoint of drinking, you know, that the kind of coffee and chocolate flavoring with something that's a little bit more kind of on the hard kind of sharp cheese end of things. I think it would go awesome. So yeah,
How about a
this is something-
cheesecake with dark chocolate in it?
The
Maybe dark chocolate and raspberry or something.
Yeah, I think probably more on the raspberry side. And the dark chocolate almost could be a thing where I think like maybe the first bite or two would probably be amazing, but by the end you'd almost probably feel like it was maybe too heavy or too much. Whereas
Yeah,
if
too
you
much
had
layering.
right, whereas if you had if you had just like a raspberry cheesecake where you're getting the kind of sweet on one end and then the roasty kind of, you know, the roasted like chocolate / coffee with the drink, those would probably complement each other pretty amazingly. So yeah, I could definitely see that. Oh, man,
Nice.
this is delicious, dude. Oh, I'm so excited.
And while you've been describing what it sounds like a wet dream of a beer, I also have been looking over. Like I kind of looked over at mine now, and I'm like, is mine going to be good? But you know what? As I looked at it again,
Right.
I'm kind of psyched to try this.
Okay.
I don't know if you've had this before, and you may have. This is a brewer that we both like.
Yep.
My complaints in the past again have been that this brewer, it just normally puts out ABVs that are very low.
Right.
But again, as I've been gravitating more towards sessionable beers and not like ones that are really heavy and just like fill you up real fast, and I am
Lagunitas?
really appreciating this company. It is Lagunitas, yeah.
Yes. All right.
And so I'll describe the first on the can. So this is a can, right? I got six pack of 12 ounces here, right?
Okay.
The can, wrapped around the top of the can, it says, "I want a dog that's going to collect and clean my bath, return my clip, and give my birds and commission."
Okay.
I don't know what that means, but that probably goes with the theme of this, like, kind of out there ale. The description is, "You are here on a speck of dust, 3 tiny rocks from the source, at the edge of something much larger, in the middle of something else, at the beginning of the end. It's a lot to wrap your head around, so take it one gulp at a time. Life is uncertain. Supercluster is a citra-hopped mega ale of galactic proportions. Everything we've learned about making hop-forward beer, pale, cold, slightly alcoholic, and has the slightly crossed out, and bitter." And then it invites you to call them sometime at their number. And it says "Beer Speaks." And then it has something that says "Pack Pit Mummy."
Is it beer
Mummery. No, it's like it looks like it has Greek in it.
Okay.
Like this is written in Greek. Yeah, actually, as I look at it, it's written in Greek. I don't know what that means right now, but anyway, it's Lagunitas, a Citra Hop Mega Ale of intergalactic proportions called Super Cluster Ale. Have you had this before?
I have not. I have not had that one. That is a new one to me, so that's cool. I'm interested to hear about this one.
8% ABV, CraigMakk.
Nice. There you
So,
go.
citrus and the hops. I found that recently, like I said, you've been trying a lot of IPAs with citrus in them to offset the heavy IPA flavor, and This is not an IPA, but it is an ale with a lot of hops in it and citrus, and I'm ready to find out how it tastes. So that can is really nice preserving. Like it's been cold sitting here this whole time while we've had like the show running. I pulled it out of the fridge quite a while ago, like half an hour ago. It still feels like ice cold.
Nice.
Ooh, immediately a nice, crisp, refreshing citrus smell comes out of the can. Pops me in my nose, like playfully almost, like a fucking Tinkerbell spreading her legs and waving her pussy around my nose.
Okay.
All right, the company can quote me on that one.
Yeah, that's what they're probably gonna have on the.
You know what? We have been serious for way too long. I had to take a fucking detour. All right. Wake up, motherfuckers! It's still Serious Jest.
Welcome to the show, motherfuckers.
Welcome to the show, bitches. All right, let me take it. I haven't even started drinking yet. All right, I'm gonna take my first sip. Ooh, Tinkerbell's pussy is nice, man. It's on
the back of the shirt.
It is heavy.
The man cave.
Yes.
Ooh,
I would say
Tinkerbell's pussy.
So
that's my new favorite shirt, by the way.
For me, when you combine heavy hops and citrus, I personally prefer the citrus to be stronger than the hops, just because of the way my taste buds are set up right now. Right. But this one, the hops dominates. Not in a bad way. It's just kind of not, it didn't play to my preference because the citrus hit me first and then the hops came in strong in the back end. So it's almost like having like the girl knock on your door and you open it and she's like, hey, and you open the door and then this her fucking big ass rough boyfriend walks in and robs you and then this fucking pushes the door open. That's what it kind of feels like. Hops? Yeah, exactly. Like the hops came in and like fucking strong armed me. Like, the fucking citrus lured me in, and the hops like, boom, bitch. And I'm like, oh. But it's despite it being 8%, there is still like a light, crisp taste to it. But man, like the hops now, the more I talk, I can feel it the hops invade your entire fucking tongue, and the citrus is gone. Really? Now, let's see what happens when I take a second sip. I can still smell the citrus coming out of the can. And the citrus is still front heavy. So I guess the only way, like the aftertaste is very heavy hops, and the only way to keep this at like my premium taste area or my favorite taste area is to keep drinking it fast. Okay. So yeah, I'm gonna get wrecked.
Good thing you got this show,
but this is good though. This is good. This isn't my preference in a beer. Like this is good despite not being what I prefer.
Right.
So I gotta say, I would drink this again. Nice. Definitely.
So that's cool if
it's not my.
They overwhelmed your, your normal, it not being your, something that you would typically lean on, and the fact that this one is good enough to make you still decide you want to keep drinking it. That's pretty great.
Definitely heavy hops on this one though. Like it's almost tastes like fucking like weed beer. Like really? We were discussing that. Like the hops are so heavy that but again, like the citrus on the front end did enough of a job of like, keeping me on that, like the lighter flavor.
Right.
So by the time the hops overwhelms it, you've had time to take your next sip.
Nice. By the way, sidebar, just so you know, supercluster. A supercluster is a large group of smaller galaxy clusters or galaxy groups. It is among the largest known structures of the cosmos. The Milky Way is part of the local group galaxy group, which in turn is part of the Laniakea supercluster. So just in case anyone cared, that's where the name comes from. It's
pretty dope.
That's why they're like this out of the galaxy, all the shit that they write on the side of it and everything.
Let's keep fucking piling on this then, because I just found on the side of the cardboard box that houses the six cans, it says transmission Delta 135.12. One of the interns spotted a highly hydroxylated mass orbiting our third moon. We could tell very little except that it is most certainly from some uncharted backwater of Laniakea. We've already discovered some subgroupings, including an area of bottles, kegs, and garden gnomes containing no metadata or cohesive communication skills. Of special note, found in the cushions of an orange couch was a hand-scrawled rune containing a libational recipe using our precious Citrobinan by an inordinately massive amount. Who could possibly convert our life source into such a casual beverage? What's it got to do with beer? And like now the writing starts to get like Greek symbols in there, substituting
nice.
out. And then there's a number written, and then there's like a picture of a dog, like
Yep,
Spot from
dogs,
the Spot from like the Little Rascals or whatever.
Rascals,
He says,
yep.
beer, it says beer speaks, people mumble.
Yep. Yeah, they love dogs.
Still.
They're on most of their things, number one, so that's cool. But, dude, I'm not going to lie. That's like an actual cool, like, that marketing that they just did on the side of that box makes me want to drink it more, just because I'm like, that's almost like they did some weird like game story to this thing. Yeah, where I'm like, fuck, do I have to solve like a mystery here? This is cool as shit how they did that. I'm down with that.
I
that
like Lagunitas
even more, yeah.
With every beer they put out. I'm a fan.
Yep. They do some cool shit, which I like. So that's awesome, and that's very cool. I'm glad, and it's cool that we're trying some two ends of the spectrum shit. You know, like with you going on a pale ale and me doing like an imperial stout. You know, which is like interesting to see where this takes us tonight. So we'll see what happens, but probably gonna make some bad decisions tonight. Yeah, exactly. Well, man. I'm probably going to fuck up another thing and end up missing about 40 minutes of gameplay. So I'm like, oh, fuck, I couldn't cross the street. Oh, well. I guess this game's over. Poor Connor. I'm going to fuck Connor over again.
All right, so real quick, for those of you that are, if you're watching live, so Connor up until, actually, you want to just like really super break down where we are with Connor.
Yeah, so the last one, I just jumped back on the screen if you're looking at it. So the last one I did was the one I was just referring to, was the time where I was in the Eden Club. We were searching for, there was a murder that took place there, and we got called in to figure out what happened. We ended up finding out that there was a dead body there, and then there was also an android, a deactivated / dead android. Reanimated the android, found out that there was another android involved in that as part of this murder case, and so we eventually had to investigate, myself as Connor, as well as Hank, my partner. We were trying to investigate to find that other character, or the other android that was involved in this murder scene. And turns out I just fucked up because I'm bad at games, and I was not able to figure out where she went, and so I lost her trail and she got away. And so then we spent a pretty decent amount of time talking about the differences from your playthrough, where you actually did pursue her, and some cool shit happened that I feel like, if you really want to know, I don't think we should paraphrase it, because you told it pretty well last time, and I feel like that's something, if you're interested to see kind of an alternate playthrough, go back and listen to that, because
the Eden Club one.
Yeah, the Eden Club one, which was 2 episodes ago, episode 20. But again, that is a really good version or explanation of how this game really does butterfly out, because there was like a solid, I think 25-30 minutes or so of gameplay that I just straight up just didn't see because I fucked up, that you ended up getting to play through. That was some of the most heartbreaking shit that took place in this game to this point. So it's pretty cool. So that's really where we are. For me, what ended up being one of my probably most anticlimactic missions, just because I shat the bed, was one of your kind of most difficult, from an emotional standpoint, to get through in terms of what happened. So I guess that's where we are now.
And the same has happened where you had a really great scene that I missed out on because I didn't complete something. So it's really cool seeing your version play out. And on a really even more macro level, just if you happen to be jumping in on this live and watching this mission, like starting with 22, just to let you know, Connor is an android that has been basically rented out to law enforcement, and he has been assigned, along with his human partner who has something against androids that hasn't really been revealed yet. They've been assigned to examine this new trend of androids going quote-unquote deviant and attacking their owners or doing shit out of their programming that basically they consider a threat to society.
Yes.
And now we're back at the bridge as we start with that. Let's find out what happens. I honestly don't remember what happens in this exact mission. So
okay, so that was the only thing I was going to ask you. Is there anything that I didn't recap or that I'm forgetting? Because from my memory, the only thing I remember, it literally ended with us being like, shit, we didn't find him.
Yeah, she got away.
Hank being like, fuck you, you're the worst. I almost thought you were cool for a minute. And then we literally walked out of the Eden Club, and that was like the conclusion. So the bridge.
No, so I think to this point, it's been Connor's story has basically been, hey, you're assigned to catch these fucking deviants and figure out why they're going deviant. And not only is like his local command is like that he's attached to is the police department wants to find this out, but it appears that the people that are the company that makes him and his fellow androids, CyberLife, right? Is they also want to know because this is a threat to their product as well.
Yes, absolutely.
So the bridge is just going to be, I guess, I don't necessarily think it links directly back to one particular. I think this is just another instance of them trying to figure out what the fuck is going on with all these androids.
Yeah. So it seems like, just in case anyone cares, if you're keeping track of this at home, the Eden Club took place on November 6th in 2038 at 8:17 p.m. This is just a couple of hours later, November 7th at 1:19 a.m. So it's just later that night. I guess we just end up going to the bridge, and we're going to find out what happens with, I assume, Connor and Hank right now, correct?
Yep.
All right, you ready to dive in? Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's see what happens. All right, so we are going into, what just happened there? That was weird. Oh, it just showed the flowchart. Let's go. No, what's happening? Oh my God, I'm so bad at this. Look at this. I'm terrible at cams. That's why I always forget. You go back to continue. All right, so now we're going into the bridge. We're going to see what happens, and hopefully I won't fucking suck again and fail some type of mission critical moment where you'll be like, oh, that sucks. All right, here we go. Hank is still warm to me, though. That's good. I feel good about that. Software instability still occurring. All right, here we go. Ooh, what kind of shitty music we listen to? Connor. All right, let's get out. Turning up the volume a little bit. So I want to hear what's happening here. All right.
Thrash metal? I couldn't hear it.
Yeah, it was pretty shit.
So that's why, because he knows that Hank likes that shit?
Yes.
So that's why he's listening to it.
Yeah. So he's trying to connect with Hank, because I did find that out when I was searching around.
Going snooping around his desk?
Yeah, when I was snooping around his desk, I learned that he... there we go.
He likes weird-ass fucking
he likes some
music that sounds like robots fucking.
All right. So this is, in case just so you're watching along at home, we will go through these articles later on. I'm just kind of picking them up so we can see. Markets predict war. And what was the first one? I already forgotten. The mysterious
Mr. Kamsky.
All right. So I just wanted to unlock these, and then we'll talk about any of these. A lot of these are just mostly they kind of add flavor to the world, but we're not going to read them through them right now. So there we go.
Any flavor in here.
Yep. Is there anything else here? It looks like no. I'm not picking up anything, so I think we're good. All right. Unless Connor wants to go ride on those little kitty toys. Let's go talk to Hank.
That would be fun. That would be pretty funny.
To see him sitting on a rocking horse like... All right. Hank does not look happy. Hank never looks happy.
I really do feel like as I'm drinking these beers, I'm getting chased by like a hops monster.
Nice view, huh?
And like as soon as like the hops like starts to get really overwhelming, then I take another sip and ooh, back to the citrus.
You get so Hank's drinking with us. I like it. No, don't tell him to stop drinking.
Before what?
Maybe you should stop drinking on the job. Fuck you, Connor.
Before what?
I used to come here a lot before.
Before nothing.
God damn it. Why won't he tell me?
Can I ask you a personal question?
Stop hiding your feelings, Hank. Open up to me.
Do all androids ask so many
Like Tinkerbell's pussy.
questions? Or is it just you?
It's just me.
I saw a photo of a child on your kitchen table.
Oh, fuck. Oh, he's pissing me.
It was your son, right?
Yeah.
Why'd he get mad at me for that?
was cold.
I thought he'd be way more mad if I asked about suicide. Fuck! Fick!
Shit. I feel like whatever you asked him about was going to be a lose.
Yeah, probably. I guess I could have just not had the question at all,
any
but...
progress on this investigation.
Oh shit, he said his name is Cole.
Yeah, so
The deviants have nothing in common.
I don't remember if he told me that.
They're all different models, produced at different times, in different places.
Again, I want to point out to anyone
some
watching,
rank.
I really love Connor. He's amazing. I love the way he talks. I love how corny he is.
What they have in common is this obsession with RA9.
It's
almost
like
like some kind
it
of
is specifically,
myth.
but
Something they invented that wasn't part of their original program.
Androids believing in God. Fuck. What's this world?
Vic,
coming to?
what's this world coming to?
You seem preoccupied, Lieutenant. Is it
This beer's so
something
good.
to do with what happened back at the Eden Club?
When I fucked up.
I wish we had found that girl that killed that guy. Maybe she had a reason.
See,
Maybe she
fuck.
was just defending herself.
He knows. He's just disappointed at me.
You seem troubled, Lieutenant. I didn't think machines could have such an effect on you.
What about you, Connor?
I like this little moment they're having. They're just brilling out right
You
now.
look human. You sound human. But what are you really?
I'm a machine, designed to accomplish a task. I know why I exist and who designed
I
me.
went with aggressive there.
I have a reason to live. I guess that's the difference between us, Lieutenant.
Oh, fuck. Wow, that was not
Nothing
what I
else
wanted.
matters to you but your goddamn investigation, huh?
That's not what I wanted to do.
No doubts. No mistakes.
Hank is getting pissed at me in this episode.
Weaknesses. Human being just like me.
Why'd you have a software instability after that?
I don't know, yeah.
Nothing matters more to me than this investigation.
I went with understanding on that
But
one.
I understand if you have a different point of view.
Oh, what? Whoa. Oh, Connor handled
What,
that
are
like
you
a
afraid to
fucking
die, Connor?
pimp.
You shouldn't
Logical.
do that, Lieutenant.
Fuck!
Destroying me at this point would deal a blow to the investigation. And have
Don't
negative
think this happened
consequences
to
your
me.
personal situation.
What'll happen if I pull this trigger? Nothing? Oblivion? Android heaven?
Android.
You know you're not going to shoot me, Lieutenant.
Oh,
You're
shit.
just trying to provoke a reaction. I'm afraid I'm going to have to disappoint you.
You think you're so fucking smart.
Hank is
Really
really
interested in how you
Always
play
one
this.
step ahead, huh? Tell me this, smartass. How do I know you're not a deviant?
Oh, shit. Wow.
I self-test regularly. I know what I am and what I am not.
Oh, I unlocked a path with
Where are you
Hank.
going?
To
Oh,
get
that's-
drunker.
Ah, to get drunker. Welcome to the party, Hank. That's what I'm doing too,
You actually got
Hank.
Hank to not like you. Wow, in one
Yeah.
shot like that.
Yeah.
You just
Wow.
kept getting like negative, 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 negative.
He was not enjoying. I think he wanted me to say that I was like alive, but I didn't feel like it was a thing that like
That was quick.
Connor was ready to say. Yeah, it was 64%.
So this was
played through that
really
one.
interesting because I could map out how this differed. In my version, I found those two, and he mentioned it, right? I found those strippers,
Yes.
or the android escorts or whatever.
Yes.
And I guess we can go through it, and I'll tell you at the point of where there was importance, I guess,
Okay.
from my memory, to the best of my memory.
Okay. Cool. Interesting part of this is makes me wish if Proudstar had been here because we had mentioned Proudstar, fan of the show, came on and he got into this from us talking about it, right? And then
Yep.
within our last episode to now, he went and bought the game and beat it completely. Played through the
Really?
whole thing. Yeah.
Oh,
he
I
played
didn't
through
see
the whole
that.
thing.
Did
Yeah.
he post that in
He
the
did. So-
Discord?
He did. He sent me a message and let me know that he had played through it.
Nice.
So one thing that we didn't actually get to mention, just kind of a throwback, but in the last episode, I kind of want to give him a shout out because in the Pirates Cove, there was the thing where there was a choice where it said, I looked in his bag and found the gun. Remember? And so remember you and I had a conversation after where I was like, that's weird that it gave me that it's made that be a choice because I just looked in the bag and that was just like it just showed the gun, right? Like it was there. It wasn't like a choice. Once I looked in the bag it showed. And he said, no, actually we were incorrect. What happened was when you looked in the bag, I think depending on the direction that you press to look in the bag, you could have also seen
shit.
like a brush or something, like the kid's brush, and you could have used it to brush her hair or something like that. So it actually could have played out differently where you would have seen if you had used the brush. Because remember, I pulled the gun out and used it. I could have used it to shoot the androids when they came in, but I ended up not. And then we got the kind of happy ending with the Jerrys or whatever the fuck they're called. So
did you pull the squid out though?
So exactly, I did not pull the squid out. So
interesting.
MCU. Right, a little throwback there. If you are not listening to Live from the MCU, well, you're fucking up, and you should go check that out. But that is the squid makes regular appearances there. But so it's interesting. It would be interesting to see his playthrough, having just gone through it. He'd be able to kind of probably give us a little bit of some info. So maybe on the back end when he listens to this one, he can let us know too if there's anything different. But so interesting.
Nice.
So if you want to kind of intersperse your interaction, because specifically, like you said, Hank did mention, he's like, fuck, I wish we had caught those fucking guys, and it ended up that obviously you did catch them, so you probably have a different version of the story. So we'll jump in here. As we always do, we kind of just rip through and look at the world stats, compare what I did versus what you did versus kind of what the general population playing the game did. I did pick up 64% of the things here, so I don't know. Do you have yours up already to know what you did?
I do. Mine was 64 actually, exactly as well.
Okay, so it seems like most of it was probably all like it was just discussions, right? So it was either you chose a different path, but you're still going to get the same percentage because you can only do a certain number of things. So public opinion is still skeptical. Software instability, I'm still questioning. Hank is now neutral, so this was a bad one for me and Hank because I went in warm with Hank and dropped all the way down to neutral, which is a fucking bummer. So that sucks. And I guess, and then it says Amanda still trusts me.
Could be interesting for the story, though.
Yes.
Because it looks like,
we had a bit of that was the most confrontation that we've had between the two of us. And they've had some obvious, serious confrontations. Most of them have just been Hank being like, fuck you, Connor, you fucking asshole. But, like, he came to kind of a begrudging respect for me. And then I guess somewhere along the way in this episode, whether or not that means that I might not turn it around, because we show how quickly you can kind of change somebody's opinion. But at least I pushed him in this episode. I got him, frustrated or angry or kind of, he didn't like I said, I do think, I guess when we talk about it in a minute, part of me did feel like he was pushing to have me respond in a way that would be more of a human, like I want to live or I'm alive or whatever reaction. He was kind of trying to push for that, and he maybe wanted that even. Whereas, again, I guess we'll talk about some of the decisions that I made and kind of why I did them in a second. But all right, so let's bring up the world stats and then dive into it, unless you had anything else you want to say about this part up front.
No, I think you covered it well.
All right, so we started at the Ambassador Bridge, and then we left the car. I did find those two, which almost half the people actually didn't find, which is interesting. Again, we're at this again, which is so crazy to me, where there are people read the first article, and then 8% of those people just don't choose to go to the... Like, you've played 21 episodes of this. How have you not figured out that there's always two? Like, I did that shit once, and I was pissed at myself, and I will never do that again unless literally the fucking PlayStation shuts down on me in the middle, and I get fucked out of it. Like, I don't understand. But anyway, so... If you want to pull those up later, we don't have to get into them right now if you don't want to, because this one's not too long.
I'm going to look for them now while you keep going through it.
Okay. So.
And then when I hit one, I'll let you know.
Okay. So it talks to
Actually,
Hank.
hold on. I'm sorry.
Yep.
I have one up right now. I found markets predict war. All right. So stock exchange falls 10% on fear of Arctic conflict. President Warren at 33% approval. That's the president of the United States in this CyberLife world's first $1 trillion company. So markets predict war. Stock exchange falls 10% on fear of Arctic conflict. So in our previous episodes, you may have noted we've been finding articles about them finding whatever the fuck the blue blood, whatever the real name of it is, something anium, and they find it in the Arctic, and Russia said, hey, that shit's ours, and the U.S. said, no, fuck you, why do you have the right to go in there and just grab it, and now they're facing off. So this is the aggregated U.S. stock exchange closed trading 10 points down yesterday following a string of similarly poor performances in recent weeks. Financial experts are attributing this poor performance to huge devaluations of consumer stocks as the market continues to bet that America will go to war over the Arctic sooner rather than later. This assessment is supported by healthy performance of military stocks, with aviation and weapons manufacturers enjoying unprecedented growth. Investors are also continuing to favor CyberLife because of its partnership with the Department of Defense to develop and supply military androids. I got their fucking hands in everything. With Russia and the United States continuing to dominate world news and neither side likely to back down, the market is expected to continue falling. So that was all on that. Wow. Any comments about that, or anything you want to?
This one's probably more we have discussed in previous
world building,
previous episodes. Yes, so we've had ones that have been like, oh, this is like a super thought-provoking kind of thought experiment that gets us going down conversations about Android fucking and whatever. We've done that part, and then there are other ones where you're like, the article speaks for itself, but what it really does is kind of explores what's happening in this world outside of the 3 androids and a couple of humans like Hank that you're interacting with, and they do a pretty good job. I think that's probably some of their best background storytelling takes place in these little newspaper articles or magazine articles that you find that just kind of tell you like some shit's actually happening in the real world. That's pretty heavy shit. Like the world is teetering on the brink of war between these 2 world powers, and not unlike you can make arguments on where we are right now and all kinds of shit like that. So I think this one, I don't know unless there's other stuff you want to talk about it, but I think that's just another really good story that just kind of tells you that over the course of, I guess this is supposed to be about a couple weeks or however long it's been, I don't know in terms of the story of the game, but or a couple months, whatever, but this you're kind of learning about what's happening outside of your little bubble of the world, and it's pretty intense. So I think that was another cool article that kind of just tells that story.
Works for me. Yeah. I found the other one too. If you want, this one might be world building. I'm not sure yet, but it's. I guess there's instead of Time magazine, it's Century magazine. Nice. What happened to the man of the century, the mysterious Mr. Kamsky? As you saw him, a creepy-looking motherfucker, with a cold, blue-eyed stare. Politics in focus. Are American senators really corrupt? These are other articles. China earthquake kills 10,000 people, and those are other articles. But back to the mysterious Mr. Kamsky. What happened to the man of the century? In 2028, so that's I think 10 years before this takes place, Elijah Kamsky was our man of the century. Maybe more than that. I don't know, but are we in 2038?
2038. Yep.
38. Okay. So in 2028, Elijah Kamsky was our man of the century. His creations in 2028 they declared the man of the century. It's a little premature, right? Yeah. But he was our man of the century. I guess they're like placeholder until somebody better comes along. Yeah. In 2028, Elijah Kamsky was our man of the century. His creations have transformed our world. Androids didn't just revolutionize the economy. They changed the way we live, restructured our family life, and altered the balance of society forever, whether for good or for bad.
I actually would probably, go on a rim and say, but I'd go on an edge and say they probably made a decent argument to say he could be the man of the century if he's the guy who invented androids.
Yeah, and a question I'll put a pin in until I finish, reading the article, and then we kind of, we turn to whatever this make us think about. But I'll just throw it out there that start getting you thinking, like, what other inventions in our lifetime have we seen that have changed the world as profoundly as androids might? Right. And we can discuss that. Yes. Upcoming. So shortly after Kamsky had disappeared, shortly after 2028, he was ousted as CEO of CyberLife and living in obscurity outside the media glare. The man of the century has left the world, the very world that he recreated. Kamsky's story begins in 2018 when commercial property in Detroit was cheap and attracting many startups. Oh, just like now, right? Yeah. The college graduate bet what little he had on developing an Android prototype and spent years to no avail until hitting on 2 breakthroughs, Bluebud and biocomponents. After unveiling his first working model, which publicly passed face-to-face Turing tests and stunned the world, Plans were laid for mass production, and CyberLife rapidly became the most valuable stock in the world. Yet at the peak of CyberLife's powers, when the company was approaching a $500 billion valuation, rumors emerged that Kamsky disagreed with the shareholders over strategy. He later departed under mysterious circumstances. Today, sources claim Kamsky is living in a luxurious villa by the water, somewhere on the outskirts of his beloved Detroit, refusing all visitors and spending his time exclusively with androids. And the most interesting question remains unanswered. What's in the mind of the mysterious Mr. Kamsky? All right, so first off, I want to say, as a world-building article, this is fucking awesome.
That is. That's probably one of the most interesting ones because we have had no backstory about any of the like where CyberLife or androids as a kind of construct came from. So that's kind of cool to create this a bit of a Jeff Bezos kind of this genius that kind of comes out of nowhere, starts this thing, gets nothing out of it, and then eventually hits on this one huge breakthrough. But then this guy happens to fade into obscurity, which is kind of interesting as well. That's cool.
So you thought of Bezos before Zuckerberg when you were thinking about how he was coming up?
I mean, I literally, that's actually funny that you said that because it was both of those names came to mind immediately, and it was just like, which one did I say first? But it does probably.
Or Jobs.
Yeah, you could have said
Gates.
Steve Jobs, you could have said Bill Gates. Like all these names just kind of all jumped into my head as like these kind of revolutionaries that pop up. And the only difference is we don't have an example that jumps to my mind right now of these types of characters of somebody who faded into obscurity. You have most of these guys all, at least to the current stage we're in right now, maintained their
maybe
relevance
the guys who
until they
invented the
decided.
internet?
Well, yeah. So that's a little bit different, just because that's like a government created, it wasn't created by a corporation where you'd have somebody that would mass produce it and become this kind of
privately
business, right? Yeah, because like the internet was created by DARPA and it was the DARPANet created by the government first. So you don't have a guy who like kind of like the Al Gore story, right? Of I created the internet, like that whole thing is there's.
By the way, I just read about that recently. That was a misquote, right?
Yes, no, of course, I know that's a joke. It's a joke that people used to make fun of him when in reality he never actually said that. And so that's why I use that, is because there is not a person like that who ever actually created the internet, and that's why we don't know, because it is a team of people that work for the defense.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of people because what's weird about it is that in its pure form, the internet started as computer to computer, right?
Right.
So
the DARPANet, yeah.
Yeah, so whoever thought that was, whoever thought up the idea of like, I want to connect a computer to yours. Actually, that was already, that was happening before the internet existed, right? Like, I have my cool computer game, and you had LAN parties, like in that respect, or where you were able to connect with the wires and shit like that. Well, not exactly LAN parties, but they were.
Yeah, there was nothing to that degree. I mean, because there was the ability to connect locally, like to connect between computer, like to link up, like directly connect like one like hard drive to another. But in terms of being able to link on any degree that would become like a local area network, even like a LAN, or obviously like the wide area network, which became the internet, that was the shit that we needed the infrastructure of like even having a developed phone line to be able to get to that point, right? So you really couldn't.
Yeah, even before that, it was just the communicating. Yeah,
it was
like you're saying, it's ARPANET was
right.
Department of Defense funded.
Right,
and
yes.
They were the first ones credited with allowing packet switching to allow multiple computers to communicate on a single network.
Right.
So that was, and then it adopted TCP/IP in 1983.
TCP/IP, right, and that's when
they started in the late 60s though. Before TCP/IP, when they were just using the packet switching.
Right.
60s. That's crazy.
So in the 60s, when you think that happened before we were even alive, the idea of now again the internet being like the on the wide area, that they definitely were not that. It was all a closed network of we can't house everything on one computer, because also remember they didn't have, their supercomputers now are like an iPhone dwarfs like what they had of all of the computers they had at the time, right? So they were like, we just don't even have the capability of storing everything on one single computer, so we need to be able to link all of this information together and control it. So they created ARPANET to be able to put like the Department of Defense put together this controlled network, which then they started realizing like, oh, we could utilize the network to be able to transmit information over, over a wider area. And then obviously you're looking 20 years later before the idea of TCP/IP and like, packet switching over the wider networks, came in like the early 80s. And so we're actually the first.
And then in 1990, Tim Berners-Lee is the guy who's credited with inventing the World Wide Web. That's the shit. When that hit, that's when we were like,
I remember having a
Signs,
conversation. Right. I remember having a conversation with like my computer teacher, like in high school. Like I remember literally having the conversation of like, oh shit, like they just actually created, or I mean not in high school, in middle school, having the conversation in middle school about like, oh, they actually just invented like the World Wide Web. Like, so it was like the whole idea now that we talk about like www whatever blah blah blah. No one actually says like the World Wide Web. You just say the internet. But I remember at the time actually conversations.
There's a difference though.
Right.
There's definitely the World Wide Web is one of like a part of the internet.
Of the internet.
It's the most popular. Right.
So that's the funny thing is I remember the creation. Right. I remember the creation of the actual World Wide Web, which was like the first time there was this idea of, I mean, think also predating all this stuff when you go back to, remember like AOL and Prodigy when they were in their original stages, when it was like all a closed network of, you didn't just go on the internet, like you logged into Prodigy or you logged into AOL and you saw like if you wanted to go to the news, you went to like AOL News or Prodigy News or you went to Prodigy Sports and they told you whatever stories they wanted to tell you, right? There was no like, you didn't just click on like ESPN.com and then see, or CNN.com or, ABCnews.com or whatever. And so like everything was this closed network. And then right around probably
you could access the direct sites, but you just had to know where to go though.
Well, no, but initially they didn't even exist. That's the whole thing. Initially, when they first created, because before the creation of the actual web as like the World Wide Web as it fully fucking now exists.
Okay.
Right.
So you're saying, that was pre-World Wide Web.
Yeah. Right. Before the World Wide Web, you could literally just say like, oh, I pay for Prodigy. And so Prodigy just allows me to connect, and I can, like, that would say, like, if you also have Prodigy and I have Prodigy, we could say, like, let's log in and we can both play, like Doom against each other, but instead of playing like connecting our computers together, like you said, like a LAN party, it's basically faking a LAN party by saying, pretend we're connected to each other, but instead of me directly connecting to you, it's you connecting to the internet, me connecting to the internet, and then we connect between, or connecting to the to the TCP/IP and connecting through the internet.
Fuck, something just hit me, Craig.
Yeah. Yes.
Sorry.
Yes.
I was just this idea, just like, is there any value into like, because remember back in the day, the problem was like, all right, well, if you and I want to connect over the internet, right, then maybe you, me, all our friends, we can get together through this company like Prodigy, right, and make sure that we can all talk to each other on the internet, which is valid, right? The World Wide Web says now anybody can talk to each other over the internet at any time, right? But now the World Wide Web is so saturated that, as you know, like, fuck, unless you're a company with millions of dollars to make sure that you're the first in the Google searches, or or you're lost it's a lot of time, like you get lost in the white noise, right? So is there any value to companies like Prodigy coming back now and saying, all right, hey, you tired of like, do you want just your fucking specific network of people? Like maybe it's, anybody who's a billionaire and over, or anybody who's part of this particular club or particular industry, or maybe just you and your friends want to rent out a certain, like a World Wide Web that's only specific to yours and doesn't get clouded out by anybody's shit. Is there any value to a company like that coming back in now? So almost like a regression to the Prodigy days and making that money.
So my argument would probably be no, because what you'd be doing is that would be kind of the argument that you and I have had on the show already, is like the idea of net neutrality, because then they would just control 100% of the message that gets across to any individual, and I don't see there. So the value of like having a somebody who can collate, or kind of like can kind of put together a package of, here's the information that you want, so you come to us for that. Basically what there is for that is I literally can just go into, like, if I want liberal news, I go to CNN. If I want if I want conservative news, I go to Fox News. If I want to find out about like the most widely hit sports, I go to ESPN. But if I want to really get some shit on like just like UFC, I go to like the UFC channel, whatever. Like if I want to find out people that like fucking guns, I go to this page that talks about like gun ownership. It's like right now I can curate myself, versus if I left it up to a company to do that, then you would just get them only controlling. And that's why people hate the idea of the lack of net neutrality that, you know, the FCC and Ajit Pai, that piece of shit, has fucking done away with net neutrality because he's allowed...
Piece of shit, cool cup.
Yeah, he's great cup.
Cool
he's
coffee
allowed,
cup, piece of shit behind it.
He's allowed companies to control the message before it even gets to me. I'd much rather the person have to do an little bit of extra digging, and you're right, yes, that the white noise becomes a problem, but I'd rather that be that things can get lost in the white noise but have access to it than have the bottleneck be before I can even find it because the company, like a Prodigy, not that they were intentionally doing it back then, because there was literally nothing to, they weren't controlling any message then because there was no message. The internet didn't exist. But once they busted open like World Wide Web and created the idea of, no, you don't need to go to a deliverer of the news, you just go directly to the site and let them be the deliverer. So it became a point-to-point transaction, right? It was I want to consume it, you want to deliver it, I go to you and you deliver it to me. Whereas at that point it was like Prodigy would say, oh, well, if you want to pay us, we'll put you on our service and then you can become, you know, so if you want to be a writer, if you want to deliver news, you'd go to like Prodigy, and you'd be one of their news writers that you were the ones that were, and actually a lot of that stuff they were just taking from like newspapers and stuff like that, but it's like they were collating and curating for you instead of allowing you to be able to go out and do it yourself. And so like that's supposed to be the democratization of the internet, right? Is that they removed all of those barriers and said, now you just have to be willing to do the digging, right? I mean, you have to be smart enough to know that, yes, Google bumps ads to the top and know to ignore all that bullshit, right? Even if that's the site that you were actually looking for, ignore that. Don't click on the ad because they get money for that. Just go down to the next time they show up in the just kind of general page, click on that. And like, there's problems to that as well, but I just find it funny that this is our version of like our parents being able to say, you know, I remember when I was like the first kid on the block that got like a color TV. That was fucking crazy, right? And like I remember thinking like
color TV. Check out my fucking cell phone.
Right. And I remember like, don't you remember too? Like you remember thinking your parents seemed so fucking old when they would talk about like prior to TVs when people would crowd around the fucking radio and listening to radio shows and shit. And you're like, this sucks.
Man, you're fucking nuts, dude. Like before the internet, like we existed before the internet. We remember what it was like to not have a cell phone.
Yes.
Like just be out in public and be like, oh well, I'll have to like when I get home, like somebody will tell me that somebody called. You know what I mean? Or
maybe if I'm lucky, I'll get a page. Machine. I'll get a page if I got lucky enough to have a page.
Pages were advanced at some point in our lives, right? Because I remember when those came out.
Yep.
Or at least when they were getting widespread use, and like my father, who was a doctor, like talking to me like, "Oh, you're super important now. Like you've got a pager."
Yeah.
And like all the hate because he's like, "I'm the only one that's supposed
doctor.
to have a
I need to have one." Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Right. And then remember when they came out with the pagers with the ones that you could see text? Yeah. And
that was fucking
you
crazy.
Thought you was super fucking boss because you had a fucking pager that had messages.
Right. It was alphanumeric, so you could actually send like word messages, and you were like, "What the fuck? This is fucking awesome, dude." I remember when my neighbor had like they had like a car phone. It wasn't a cell phone.
Yeah.
It was a big ass fucking thing hooked up into the center of his...
They had that Zach Morris style phone.
It was right mounted into the middle of the center console of his fucking Corvette, and I sat in his driveway and made a phone call to my house. I lived next door. I sat in his driveway, called my house just so I could see how cool it was. And now all that shit is fucking, it's ubiquitous and everywhere, right? So it means nothing. But like, so the craziest thing is to think that not in a long period of time for the internet to go from 20 years ago being effectively not a thing at all to being now what it is, which is like, what is it, 85% of commerce or something is done across the internet, and like,
insane, man.
Communicate. I mean, now we create in a given day more information, like more bytes of information are created on any given day by humanity than were created in all of time prior to the creation of the internet on any given day. Like that's fucking crazy. Like when you think about that. So
our lifestyle shifted where like I remember we were growing up, like email was something that was like that's some cool personal shit you used to talk to your relatives from far out and avoid long phone bills or something like that. Like now it's like a business must. Like people look at you like, what do you mean you didn't check your email? Like you probably get more of a fucking backlash for not regularly checking your email than checking your house mail.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
If you're like, I never check my fucking mail. I never check my house mail.
It's
you know,
trash.
who the fuck does that? You know, people look at you like, what? Like they won't even look at you like that, like
Right.
anymore. You know, like
Right.
now they've been like, oh, well, yeah, it makes sense as long as you're checking your email.
You remember when, so you know, when we were in college, we were the first actual
People
full
that used email in
class.
college.
Yeah, the first class that had where everyone was signed up with an email address and everyone utilized one. And if you go back and you remember, I mean, 90% of my email, it was the same for pretty much all of us, but 90% of our email when we first started was just forwarding on
bullshit.
like bullshit jokes and spam, like, you know, whatever, like images,
top
like just
top 20 sex
right,
moves.
forward this on to 12 of your friends if you think this is hilarious.
What's this
and like all that
dirty
shit.
Sanchez?
Right, exactly. So it's fucking insane. When
That's
you
the first
think-
time the Nigerian prince started making his appearance.
He was like, I got a deal. I can make some money here. So it is pretty funny to think, like, you know, that how all of that shit is tied to when you were saying before, like, what are the inventions that are similar to like this? Yeah, it's obviously it's the internet, it's TV,
Right.
you know,
Mobile
I mean,
phones.
it would be cell phones. It would be obviously like, I mean, if you roll it all the way back, it would be like it's like pretty much everything post electricity has been every, you know, like every 20 years there's been one of these kind of
the
global
invention of
changes,
cocaine up
and
there?
now it's every year.
Is the invention of cocaine anywhere in that conversation?
I don't
Has
I don't
changed
wanna give it-
lifestyles.
I mean,
It
yeah,
necessitated
I guess.
the DEA being formed.
I
Yeah,
guess.
no, it probably doesn't reach the whole societal shit, but I mean, it's definitely had an impact. It's probably if we're talking about the internet and mobile phones,
Right.
their development as like class A, that would
Right.
be like class AA or B plus or whatever, you know.
Right.
A minus.
Not for the same type of positive change, but yeah, it's
Right.
it's definitely up there.
It's
for
an impact.
Right,
Fucking
for
hell of an impact.
By the way, I did want to say, because you did mention, for anyone who cares or if you're listening and you were confused or interested at all, you had mentioned that, you know, his androids were the first ones to ever pass the Turing test. And so the Turing
right,
test,
the
for
Turing
anyone
test.
who cares, is interesting, is so Alan Turing, who he basically in 1950, he came up with this idea of the Turing test, which was, it was a test that he created. He determined
It's the
would
one
be
where
the-
it's the one where you allow like if you open the door for the girl and she gets in the car, and then by the time you get to the other side of the car, she has to unlock your door, or else she's a total whore. That's the Turing test, right?
Nailed it. Perfect. Oh, yep. Okay, let's move on. So that is a very important test. I don't believe that is the Turing test, but that is also, because fuck her if she doesn't. That's really shitty if she doesn't. What movie is that from?
Bronx Tale.
Bronx Tale. Yes, that's great. Good call. Okay, so fucking love that movie.
But it was called
So-
something. It was named after the guy who said it to him. It was like
Right.
something like
It was some very Italian
pinky
name,
test.
obviously. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so anyway, so the Turing test was what he determined would be the eventual test that no one has still passed to this point, but is the test to determine artificial intelligence. And what it was supposed to be is, could a machine exhibit intelligence that was intelligent behavior that was equivalent to or in some way indistinguishable from that of a human. So the way we've kind of tended to use it, although this is obviously very different, but the way we've discussed in the past, not you and I mean the way, like, you know, humanity has discussed
Society,
it
right?
Society has discussed it as a like a laptop or a computer screen. If you had, you know, like 3 computer screens next to each other, right, sitting next to each other, and I or you sat down as the user, sat down at the computer and had to talk to this computer, right? So it's just text on the screen, almost kind of like war games, you know, like would you like to play a game type shit. And
Right.
and on the end of 2 of those computers, there was another person responding to you, and one of them was just being done by the computer. And could you fool, you know, Serious Jest into not knowing which one was the person and which one was the computer? That's kind of the...
Well, it's easy. You just ask them to pick which out of the 9 frames has a stop sign in it.
Right, all of those bullshit tests that we always get. I'm like, really? You can't just
The
program
captcha-
it to figure out
captcha
which one
test.
doesn't have a bus? Like,
Which one
seriously,
has
you
a
dumb
fucking
fucking
traffic light?
computers? Yeah, fucking retards. Like, this doesn't even make
Captcha.
sense. I can figure out, like, I mean, I could show
Sometimes I
half these to
fail
my
the
kids.
test. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh yeah,
Sometimes
no,
I'm like, well,
absolutely.
that's part of a car. So does that count or does that
Yeah,
not
no,
count? Because I'm not
those
really
I
sure.
hate. I hate the ones where they tell you, sorry, like X off all the boxes where there's like a traffic light in it, and I'm like, well, this
It's
one
like
has a
half a
little bit of
traffic-
the yellow in the bottom. Like, you gonna count
Uh-huh.
that one or not? You fucking dicks. This is dumb. But like, Yeah, so fuck computers. They're just fucking us constantly. That I just feel like they're just doing it to mess with us. But so anyway, that is the Turing test. So the Turing test was created. There is that movie, which is the I'm blanking on the name right now, but it's the one with Benedict Cumberbatch, I believe, plays him, and
Doctor
it's all
Strange.
about. It's all yeah. Doctor Strange plays him, and but it is not Doctor Strange. That would be great if that was Doctor Strange was Alan Turing.
I never saw Doctor Strange.
It's but there is a movie where he actually plays Alan Turing, and it is about kind of some of his shit in creating. I think he was like he was a code breaker and some of these other things that he did.
Shit.
He was kind of a genius overall. But so he came up with this idea, and so that's this thing that's been this elusive test to be able to, and it's changed. The parameters have changed because as obviously the things he imagined in 70, 80 years ago in 1950 when he came up with that, the capabilities of computers have changed so much where probably anything we have right now would fool somebody from 1950, right? Across the board easily. So what we've now realized is that our understanding of the spirit of what he was looking for is very different than what, because I mean, literally if you went back to 1950 and gave them fucking a Siri, right, and said, talk to this thing, they'd be like, what the fuck? Oh, it's clearly a fucking, like, what the, it's clearly artificial intelligence.
Human operator.
Yeah, this is a person on the other end of my phone answering all my questions because she's perfect at everything. So it's like, we get that that's not what you're looking for anymore. It has to become, like, more like can you defeat it?
Starts every question, every answer with "I understand your question."
Right?
Is this what you're looking for? Oh wow, she's interacting with me.
I've pulled up some Wikipedia pages of things that you just asked for. I'm like, wow, she's amazing. But so that's just a little bit of backstory on what the Turing test is, in case anyone was interested. It's definitely worth looking up and checking out. So
that's interesting.
Cool.
All right, let's get back to the timeline.
Yes.
So we're done with these articles. We left the car, talked to Hank, and then it devolved into this fucking thing where Hank's got a gun at your head.
Yes. All right. So I discussed the photo with him. 58% of people didn't. That got him upset. But that unlocked.
I had to unlock as well from having seen the photo in Russian Roulette, and I did discuss it with him as well.
Okay.
Also
so you did bring it up. Yeah. So I had unlocked the ability in the previous episode, same as you, which allowed me to have that conversation. So obviously if someone never saw that photo, they wouldn't have been able to talk about it. And so 91% of people discussed RA9 with him. I guess I did not discuss the suicide, I think was the other option.
Me neither.
Which I did. So makes sense. All right. So then Hank draws his gun.
All right. So really quick, before we get to Hank drawing his gun, there was that moment where Hank
said,
talked about like, what do you think those girls would? Yeah, exactly. Yes. I wish I would have caught him. I would have liked to talk to her more. In mine, that's where the difference was. This is where I found out that the suicide of the one girl after seeing her lover killed like that by Connor, like then like this riff, kind of something that bothers Hank, and he like brings up with Connor in mind because Connor watched Hank watched Connor as me, being played by me, make the decision to cut this bitch down, like shoot one of them, and then the other one ended up killing herself, and that severely affected Hank in mine. Okay. To where it wasn't, I wish I would have caught up to them. It was like, oh my God, that girl really, like, she sacrificed herself. She felt real pain, and it starts to fuck with him.
Right.
And now he starts to believe they're alive. And then he's having this discussion with Connor, and me playing Connor, I'm like digging in. I didn't get aggressive like you did, but I did dig in on some like, oh, fuck them. They're deviants. They're programmed. They're not humans. This is what I'm programmed to believe in, blah, blah, blah. So it looks like he did draw the gun on me too. I didn't remember that happening. So whatever. So that was him being drunk and going, "Oh fuck you, Connor. You don't think they're alive? You don't think they gave a fuck? You think they're deviants? Well, what if I do this to you?"
Right. So you did kind of play a little bit the same route of me as being more the like you said, you didn't get aggressive, but you went the route of like, this is what I'm programmed to do, and this is this is why they're not alive. You kind of played the character.
Right.
Yeah, which is okay. So this gets to my point I was saying before. Was one of the big differences here was what I wanted to do, like as CraigMakk versus what I did were two very different things. What I wanted to do was be like, "Fuck you! I want to live. I'm alive. I want to live. I am Connor. I'm your boy, Connor. Like high five. Let's hug it out, right?" But I didn't feel like Connor at least at this point.
Connor's still too invested in
Connor
his
is still
purpose.
Yes, he is still very much. he's the good soldier even when he goes and meets with Amanda, and he's like, here's what I need. Yep, I'm doing what I need to do. I'm programmed. We got it. I got this. I'm gonna close this. I'm gonna close this loop for you, and we'll figure it out. Don't worry about it. I am programmed to complete my mission. That's why I get so upset when he doesn't complete his missions. Meaning what? That's why I have him respond with being upset, and also CraigMakk responds with being upset when he doesn't complete his missions, because I feel like that's the way Connor would be. So this plays to part of the strength of this game is by the 22nd mission, they have gotten you to invest strongly enough in the character that you have built, whoever that person is, and you and I are pretty similar in terms of the character of how we perceive Connor is at this point in the game.
Yes.
And so I am fully invested in making decisions that feel very counter to the move that I want to make, that what I feel would be even maybe better for the situation at hand, but it's because the way I feel the character would respond. This was
I got a good question for you then.
Go ahead.
At this point, now we have three main characters, right? We got Connor, we got Jesse Williams' character Marcus, and then we have Kara.
Yep.
Which one, if any, of these characters allows you to really let loose your inner CraigMakk? Who do you play making decisions as if it was really you, or closest to it?
Shit. That's kind of hard because the reason why that's hard is because, and this is going to sound like a cop-out, but I'm going to give my reasoning behind it, so I'll tell you. So Connor clearly is not. Connor is clearly the one I enjoy playing the most. I like him the most, but I think I am role-playing the fuck out of him, right? I'm like playing the character of Connor. The other two, there's a mix of both of them, because, and the reason why I say this is because, so on one hand, Marcus allows me to play the way now, right? Now that he's kind of obviously joined up with the Resistance and he's kind of on his own, doing his own thing, he allows me to play much more the way I kind of feel like I want the robots to play, which is like, all right, fuck it, we're doing our thing now. Like, we are taking it to the man. We are fighting against the establishment. I am breaking these people out. I am doing some shit to save, my fellow man. So he kind of allows me to go, to kind of unleash the way I feel like I would want. Like, the choices I make are usually my own, other than when I fucking straight murdered that man, and I felt bad about that because that was not, I didn't want to do that one, but it is what it is. The rest of the decisions I feel like I'm kind of playing the way I want to. But the Kara angle is the one that I emotionally feel the closest to because of the parental connection that she has with, is it Kate? Am I remembering? Is it Kate?
Alice.
Yes. So with Alice, the one that I'm like, the connection I feel with the girl whose name I can't even remember. But awesome.
Kate? Wait, was Kate one of the ones in Hill House?
Yeah, that's probably it. I know there is a Kate. There is the Kate. That's why I feel connection. But so Kara's connection with Alice is so well done in the game, and it's well done in the game, but it is so well pushed upon you to feel it. And then obviously we've talked on us having kids, like it plays on that, so you do feel a big connection of like, the stress she feels when like Alice is missing for a minute and she's freaking out or whatever, and like they do a good job of tugging on the heartstrings that you already kind of have internally.
By the way, Kate Siegel, Kate is the first name of the actress on in Hill House.
That's it. Yeah, there you go. Yes, the one that I asked. Yes, the one that I asked. I was like, oh shit, I did not know that Peg Bundy was in that, but that's awesome.
Right.
Oh man, Theodore is so amazingly hot. But anyway,
the gloves kind of adds this weird hot factor.
It really does. I don't know what that says about me as a person, but there's something.
You read a lot of X-Men, and there's a little rogue.
A little rogue in all of us. Yeah, exactly. So I think I guess now that I'm probably describing it all, probably Kara allows me to play the most like parallel to my own decisions, even though it's not the most fun because a lot of that is like stressful decision making. It's more because like keeping
which is parenting,
it's like,
right?
right, it's parenting, right? Because
Keep
it's
this kid
keeping a kid alive. Whereas like the Marcus is more just like fucking straight up let loose and just be like, fuck them. Like I'm gonna go do some shit right now because I'm gonna go steal from them. I'm gonna go, I'm gonna kick the shit out of these security guards because they work for a shitty company. Like that's the more kind of let loose. Whereas the Kara is probably the more like those are the decisions I take the most seriously because of that connection that I feel to. Like I have to get out of this in one piece. I have to get this kid out in one piece. Whereas Connor is the one where I feel I take equally seriously, but I take them seriously for a very different reason because I'm taking them seriously because they're the ones I have to think the hardest about because I have to, like you even noticed in this one, I did it again where I hover on his decisions for a lot longer because part of me is like,
right.
You want to hit fucking square and tell him, fuck you, like don't kill me, I don't want to die, but you really should hit triangle and tell him, you're not going to kill me because I'm a robot that's here to help you fucking solve this problem, and I'm going to walk
let
my
out this
fucking head
fucking
up.
sigh of relief when it
Right.
actually doesn't pull the trigger.
Right, exactly.
I was really asking for it.
Yeah, I really did just do
Connor's
the
really
aggressive, put my head up against the gun move there. I hope that doesn't backfire. But
yeah.
so,
like, well, we're gonna finish this whole Ready Player 2 series a lot earlier than we anticipated. It's a lot less missions to play through now with Hank.
Right.
I mean,
they just
Connor
dropped down to 23 episodes because Connor got shot in the forehead.
All right, so
yes.
I also got. Oh, by the way, I just would like to say that I was really leaning heavily toward just saying Marcus as well. But you made a really good observation that kind of brought me back to thinking about Kara and go, you know what? It is kind of like those two are kind of head to head for me for those different reasons that you just said. So I think we're identical in how we're playing these characters right now.
Yeah. Nice. That's awesome. All right. So
in a way, it's disappointing for me because like I kind of do want to see somebody go through and just do this differently so that your story is completely different from mine. But fortunately, there's been enough deviations.
Well, so I think that was the thing I was going to say that's most interesting is the fact that you and I think it's more interesting to me that you and I are approaching it similarly and still seeing such differences in the outcome than if we were just straight up saying like, fuck it, I'm just going to play it completely differently. I mean, that would be interesting in its own right, but it would be like, it's
like that. Of course, they're different.
Right.
They're different results.
If you're just Connor and you just walk in and you're just like, I'm gonna shoot everybody,
man,
right? Yeah. Like then of course it's gonna be different. But like it's more interesting to me that the nuance is in the fact that they said you can attempt to play it similarly and still the butterfly effect can result in differences taking place.
That's true.
Then if the only way differences could happen is if you decided to play it as like I don't give a fuck about this Alice kid, so I'm gonna do whatever the fuck I want, and then of course shit's gonna be different. But like I'd be like, well anyone could have written
that. Fucking horrible parent.
Right. If she just immediately was like, oh, you're crossing the street, fuck it, I'm going this way. See you later, bitch.
Yeah, fucking wake you up by flicking lit cigarettes at your head, kid.
Exactly. You'd be like, well, anyone could make the story differently if it required these wholesale changes in the story. Whereas like it's kind of more interesting to me that I'm like, you and I are literally trying to go the same path and still, like the story beats are different enough to be like, oh, that's actually cool. Like it shows they didn't require it to be, like everything had to be like, oh, choose to stab the kid or save the kid. It's like you could do different things that lead to different stories. And I'm like, that's actually kind of interesting to me.
Right.
So that's cool.
Nice.
All right.
All right. So we'll go through. Hank draws a gun on both of us.
So I remained logical. I did the 24%. I remained logical, which again felt very much like he would be like, I get that you're pissed, but like, I'm this is my directive. This is what I'm here for. We need to work together, and you need to calm down. But like, I'm not alive. They are just androids that we need to find. That's kind of the way I felt he would respond. What did you go with?
I went with show no fear, which is 9%, and it was
which
like,
seems also similar. Right.
Right.
It seems also like it could have gone that route. Also, I felt like it was 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Either he would, because I did go the one that was aggressive, and that one actually. So another thing
that was a surprise choice for me.
Yeah, so I didn't want to go down too much of a rabbit hole on this thing again, but that was one where it was a bit of a difference in the interpretation of the thing, and so without remembering the 4 options. So this was one of those ones where I don't remember the exact 4 options, but it was like aggressive defense. He wouldn't get defensive because that would just imply like a an
like
emotion.
he cared about his life,
Right.
right?
Aggression, to get aggressive to me felt like it would be like more that I thought he would be like what the fuck is wrong with you? We're just trying to solve this fucking case, and you being like this is not helping, right? Like that's kind of how I perceived it. Was more just like almost like not aggressive as like I am angry or like getting like passive / aggressive, the alternative to that. More that he would just be like, okay, if the only thing I need to do is smack you to wake you up, like that's what I need to do because we need to get to the next step. And then when he kind of said like, I want to,
he kind of did that.
He did, but then he did the one thing which was like be kind of a dick, because at the end he was kind of like I want to solve this case, which apparently you fucking don't, or whatever he said, like some shit where I was like, well, of course Hank's gonna get pissed to that. Like that's not. I more wanted to get in his face, but not be like, you're a dick, right? But I guess I probably should have read like
still
aggressive
a fair
whatever.
interpretation
Right.
of aggressiveness, right? Especially when you contrast it to the other choices, which was like be logical or don't you show no fear, You kind of went on the offensive of like, yeah, you're being a fucking complete idiot right now. What the fuck is wrong with you? I'm trying to solve this case. What are you doing?
So remember though, that was
drunk?
the second choice, because so they're not even actually showing the option when I went aggressive, because it was like aggressive, I remained logical, so they're just kind of lumping those together into the remain logical thing. The first one I did was go aggressive,
which is
funny.
Then I
realized
it's pretty funny that you and I chose some different choices throughout the whole thing, but most of our actual unlocks are almost exactly the same.
Right.
Other than this one where you remain logical and I showed no fear was the one difference so far.
Right. Which actually pretty much is like I said, it's different sides of the same coin. We basically went the route of like, okay, dude, like fine, but here's what we're here to do, and like you're being kind of an asshole about it. So,
are you trying to scare me? Because I'm not afraid of death.
Yeah, I did like that. That was pretty great. Did you get Hank as placated?
Yes.
Okay,
85%.
So 85% of people got that. So I guess the other one was he got more pissed. I don't know.
Yeah, more. Maybe he shot Connor. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. Well, it looks like it was an end. So it looks like there was an end. So it could have been that he shot him, and then Hank left Connor alone, 85%. So really, the only difference was that one route that you went of being a little bit more, I'm not afraid of you, whereas I went a little bit more like, hey, we have to solve this fucking mission. But that was a good one because it got tense, right? I mean, every single time, whether or not. Although clearly we can see from here, it looks like one of them could have ended with him being shot, which would have been a real bad day for Hank in terms of paperwork. But anyway, other than that, now knowing that, at the time they did create a lot of that tension of you feeling like you should probably think like what you're saying right now. Like for whether or not I thought that he was actually going to shoot me, I was definitely stressed about the relationship, right? I was stressed about like, don't say the wrong thing because you don't want to piss off Hank. And to the point,
and
like
honestly,
I said,
David Cage has created enough of a history that leaves you understanding that this could be the Game of Thrones flip moment where you're like, fuck, what, Red Wedding? Right. You know what I mean? Like all of a sudden, if you play this, so he does keep you with a healthy respect of like, yo, you can't completely just tank this shit because you think it's funny, because there could be some serious result coming out of this.
Right. And you can't redo it. So like if you fuck this up, it's over unless you want to go back and like replay the entire thing. So I like the idea of that always being a lingering threat. But even if you remove that part of it, like I said, even while we were playing this one, I wasn't sure whether or not he would have shot me. It wasn't like I was definitely. It wasn't the same way like that mission when I was locked in that guy's basement, like Katzoff's basement or whatever, Ratzoff's basement or whatever. Like where I was like, oh shit, I might actually die. Right? I don't know if I was actually as scared of him shooting me in this one, even if it was an actual possibility.
But there was probably something in the back of your head going, if I play this really, 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 really wrong,
it could
probably when you hit that aggressive one and you put the gun on your head, you were like, I'm probably floating in that danger area right now.
Yes, absolutely. At that point, I was definitely like, I've definitely chosen a path that could be the wrong path, and this could go very poorly. But if nothing else, too, I think it was evident because I even mentioned it multiple times while it was happening that I was definitely stressed out about the fact that I was watching Hank's reaction to me go more and more negative almost every single time I responded. And so part of me was already thinking, regardless of whether or not he's going to shoot me, the fact that in my head, because I even straight up said it, I was like, oh, he probably wants me to say, like, while it was happening, I was saying, he probably wants me to show some evidence of being alive, right? Like, I literally,
Right.
I said that while I was making the choices, and then I still made 3 more choices after that where I acted like Connor should, in my mind, act, as
Like you're
opposed
not
to the way
giving
I
a fuck
wanted to,
about
right?
whether you
Right.
die or not.
So it's interesting that, like, even peeking behind the curtain and saying, I think I could turn this situation around if I reacted this way, but I still don't think this is the way he would react, so I'm still going to opt not to do it. Is like that is in and of itself, evidence of pretty decent world building or character creation where they give you enough rope to hang yourself one way or the other, right? Like they let you know you can fucking say, you can Ned Stark right now and say, nah, I'm good. Like, I admit treason and let yourself off the hook. But maybe they will cut your head off. You don't know. Like, you don't know. So you always have to play it. Like, if you want to demand, that you want to stay true to yourself and stay true to your character and say, nah, I didn't do it. Like, then you can stay stuck in the dungeon or you can get let out, right, and maybe get your head cut off. And so they create this moment of you having to make those decisions, and those decisions are they're tense. They're tense in and of themselves in the way that real life is tense. In that, like, interactions with normal people, you're not worried, oh, I hope this person doesn't shoot me, but you're still worried about the fact that, like, I hope this thing I'm about to say doesn't make this person hate me, right? And so, like, that in and of itself can be character tension. It doesn't always have to be, will my character die, even if that is something that may have happened in this episode. He did a pretty good job, right, of creating this relationship between these characters. This kind of buddy cop has been blooming over the last few episodes, that when you get to this moment where you're like, yeah, maybe he's not going to shoot me, but I'm not even really worried about that. I'm more
Now
worried
he
about,
hates
like,
me.
I just don't want him to hate me.
About
Yeah.
that going from warm to neutral, and you're like,
Right.
well, what the fuck? I thought we were a thing.
Fuck,
here.
I thought we were boys. And part of it, knowing that I could have maybe changed, and I actually don't even know if I could have changed it by kind of going counter to what I thought Connor would do. But in my head, the fact that he created,
Yeah, because
thought,
in my memory, I don't remember me ever losing warm on Hank.
really,
So it's possible that you going aggressive and
did fuck it
like
up.
that whole thing
Yeah,
going
started it
yeah,
off. It was a downward spiral from there.
And
Yeah.
I wonder, like, I'm interested now as a viewer. I wonder if that's going to change any of the future stuff, butterfly effect wise, now that he's neutral on you rather than warm.
Right. I wonder. It will be cool to see. I mean, we have had, he was neutral for a long time, and I made him warm in one episode. I like kicked ass with him and made him love me, and then I just shot the bed with him that time. So maybe I can win him back again. You never know.
You kind of had a series of unfortunate events.
Right.
You let the stripper go or the escort go, and then you
Right.
and then you did this shit. You put the gun. He took his gun and put it against your head. It was like, "Fuck you, kill me." And so you didn't like that very much. So.
Yes. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I thought overall, for one that was 100% purely just storytelling.
It felt
right?
like an
It was literally
interlude. Yeah, it felt like a
just
complete
a little
interlude.
story moment between these two guys. We actually didn't learn anything. We only just talked. I mean, I guess
This agitated Hank.
the only big learning moment, I guess, was that we got him to. He actually, for the first time, mentioned the name of his son, which is not new to us. As
what
as
was it again?
characters.
Do you remember?
Cole. Yeah.
There you go.
So who knows if that, like his name being Connor and his son's name being Cole, if there's like some, residual effect that makes Hank, be more stressed out about it because of the similarities in the name. Like, there's all these cool things now that make you think like, hey, it's cool that he actually opened up, which is interesting. And it's interesting that he opened up to me for the first time in an episode that I only like aggressively made him dislike me. So it's funny that we had like our first big breakthrough, like real breakthrough of not just like being buddies, but like him actually sharing information for me happened in an episode where I made him go from fucking being cool to being like, fuck this android. So I guess we'll find out what happens next time. But it was cool because
a lot
otherwise,
of cool conversation and shit to come out of like you said, basically an interlude moment. Because there's there's other ones that are like, key moments in the story and or like stick out in your head. This one, even on memory of like for me having played it, I didn't remember it. As going in, I was like, I don't remember what happens in this one. But yeah, and it going through it again with you, I realized its importance and
yes,
it was a good one.
And so one good thing I will say too, this one did open my mind as the player, right? As like it opens my mind to the idea. Okay, so I've at least now seen, and what I perceive, and I could be wrong, because some of this game leaves a lot of lot of these things up for your interpretation. But one of the things I feel like I learned in this is, okay, so Hank is at least now perceived to be open to the idea that maybe these androids are alive, right? And he's actually shown some frustration by the fact that Connor is almost disproving that, right? Like he feels like he's seeing it elsewhere, right, and then Connor isn't reinforcing it. So that is allowing me as the player.
And it's also confusing him because of whatever his past is with androids, that obviously makes him.
Right. He has this whole shit in the background that's kind of lingering, and then Connor comes in and maybe could reinforce his beliefs or shatter his beliefs, and maybe he's doing the reverse of what he's hoping, right? So
it's funny because as a player of Connor too, you actually don't know what you're doing. Are you reinforcing or are you going against it? We don't know what his past is, so like we kind of don't know what the fuck.
That's the beauty of it, right? Because we don't know. Am I reinforcing what he already believed, and he's hoping that I would show the opposite, or is he, or am I breaking what he previously believed, and he is like angry that I am, that I'm changing his opinion, showing him that no, what you always thought all along is fucking, is wrong. So it's like, but the upside to that is it also gives me this little door opening to know, like, the moment I, as CraigMakk, get the feeling that now Connor has a real reason to kind of be, his Marcus moment against Leo where he like kind of broke his programming. The moment I feel like Connor has that moment to break out, now I feel like, okay, here's my moment, Hank. Like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to tell you. I'm going to say all the things that you probably wanted me to say before, and then we get to see what happens. So, if nothing else, I think the good side for me is, like, I got to see that, and now I may be interpreting it wrong, but it's giving me that moment to be like, well, the moment I feel like Connor can kind of emerge from his shell and go kind of quote-unquote deviant, now I wonder how Hank's going to respond, right? It's kind of, I mean, I guess that, like, the easiest example I can give, which is probably not like appropriate to anyone who actually has like serious shit to talk about with like family or friends, but like when you have multiple conversations, when you have like a secret about yourself, whether it's like, oh, I have a sickness, or this thing in my past, or I went through this thing and I have never told anybody about it, or whatever it might be, and like you have conversations with family or friends, and then you like get glimpses from things they say that maybe allow you to feel like, you know what, fuck it, I feel like they're going to understand, and I feel like I can tell them. You may be misreading the situation completely, and you may be wrong, and when you choose to tell them, it may backfire terribly, but that's all we can do, right, as like human beings, is read a situation and decide like, hey, I feel like I can share with you the thing that I didn't think I could share with you, whatever that thing may be. And sometimes you read the situation right, and sometimes you don't. Like right now, I'm hoping I'm reading it correctly, and I'm hoping that when I'm as Connor, I choose to share this, this moment of being like, no, we are alive, please save us. He's not going to be like, fuck you, and shoot me in the head. But like, you don't really know, and you have to kind of just go off of just instinct and say, am I reading this person correctly well enough? Do I know them as well as I think?
Let me stop you right there, real quick. So obviously now, you're playing Connor in a way, so whatever choices you've made are also like you've got a backstory in your head. Mm-hmm. So in your head, is Connor being completely honest when he responds to Hank? No, fuck that. I'm a robot. They're a robot. Deviations are fuck shit, and this is my programming, and this is like, is he lying or is he being completely honest? Like, is Connor becoming quote unquote woke or deviant, and he's just hiding this from Hank, or it's Connor 100% in maintaining like, nah, motherfucker, I'm a fucking android with programming, and that's all there is to it, and these motherfuckers are deviant.
So my perception, you mean, or like
I mean, this is your story.
Yeah.
So you're the guy playing Connor.
In my story, when I make those decisions, when I make those decisions as Connor, my perception is that Connor is still, as far as Connor is aware, Connor is being as 100% honest as he can be, right? So there may be questions in his head, quote unquote, about like glitching or things like that. Like, I mean, for lack of a better term, like things that are happening that maybe are beyond his comprehension. But I don't think that, like, I'm not playing it in a perception where I believe he is lying. I think that he is being transparent. until the moment where I get to have the pounding on the the wall that we've seen happen with both Kara and Marcus, where they kind of
Well,
fight their way through their programming.
well, I want to be upfront with something.
Yeah.
You don't have to have that moment with any of these characters.
Right. True. Yes, you are correct. There doesn't have to be that physical moment taking place, right? Like, I don't think that like the gameplay moment has to happen, but I'm saying I more meant that as a representation of the moment of being woke. I just don't think, in the way I've played through it, I don't feel that Connor has had the moment where he's been pushed to have that moment happen, whatever that moment might be.
So
right?
you haven't made up your mind as to whether or not he would break the wall or would not.
Right. So given to this point,
but it's possible given what's happened with the other deviants is what you're thinking.
Yes, like the other ones, I feel like they were pushed to a point where the thing happened. Like, it was going to happen whether they gave me the gameplay moment to do it. I would have perceived them to be like, yeah, no, their survival was pushed to a point, and their character was set up in such a way where they were pushed to a point to go rogue, right? Whereas in my reading of Connor, my kind of portrayal of Connor is, he is the Superman of the game, in that he is like so abiding by the rules where he just almost doesn't even perceive the option to go outside the rules yet. That's not to say that he will not. I'm actually hoping there will be the moment where he will, because I'm kind of looking forward to that resolution of him, the guy pursuing these deviants being able to be pushed to the point to going deviant himself. But if that never happens, I will be fine with playing this game through where he stays the kind of Blade Runner hunter of the other robots, because he never actually gets pushed to that point, or never believes that it's an actual thing, other than just like an actual breakdown in their programming. Because I think to this point he has kind of stayed the straight and narrow, and they've given you every opportunity to play him that way, and I feel like there's no reason to play him otherwise, which is why I don't think he's lying. I think he actually believes it until he's given the reason not to believe it.
As you were like kind of talking about the possible moments where people break that, they go deviant. What's interesting made me think about what's even more interesting about Kara than Marcus is, Marcus was being physically threatened himself.
Right.
So he went into deviant mode,
self-defense mode.
Probably helped along by the fact because of the philosophical aspects of what he was already taught.
Right.
But then also it was self-defense, threatening to himself. And Kara did it completely altruistically.
Right, to save
she didn't want to
save Alice.
Save the child, right?
Yes. So I think
pretty cool.
Part of what's cool about this game, I think, is what they're attempting to do is at least demonstrate that deviancy can occur for multiple different reasons, which is which is I think that's an important aspect, because if it all just came down to, they only go because like people treat them like shit, so they like out of self-defense, you could theoretically fall on Connor's logic that you would say that actually could just be a glitch, right? It could just be the thing
glitch.
Right, it's just self-preservation of the thing just doesn't want to be destroyed, so it then fights back and then kind of gets stuck in this limbo of like, oh shit, I pushed back against a human and broke programming to keep myself alive, and now what do I do? Because now I don't know how to follow rules anymore when I've already broken a rule of human being, right? Whereas when you show Kara in the mix, you show that actually, nothing really, she was being like verbally abused and shit like that, but like it wasn't a direct attack on her. It was the only reason she goes crazy is because I think he literally just said to her, if I remember correctly, he's just like, stand there and don't fucking move, while he's fucking shouting at the daughter upstairs. And
you sounded like he was beating the daughter up, wasn't he?
No, remember, he's downstairs just like screaming, watching TV, because remember, I have to run up the stairs before he gets up there and try to keep her safe in the room before he gets up. So the whole thing is he just says, shut the fuck up and stand there, don't move. And so you're just standing next to the stairs, and then he's screaming at the daughter upstairs, and she runs upstairs and locks herself in. And so you do the pounding to break out of your programming so you can go up the stairs and protect her. And so the whole cool thing is that it's kind of like, it's just this more general existential threat that he's posing, because he's not even literally beating her at that moment. He had just like when he smacked her by the table or whatever, but like she shows you that deviancy can occur for more humanistic kind of reasons of just protection of other people, which adds so much more credibility to the idea of why the moment of being woke can occur, because it's not just like, oh, I kick this thing until it's about to break and then it says like, fuck you, I just don't want to be broken. It would just it would be interesting, but it just wouldn't be as interesting as the idea of a little bit more of a deeper understanding of preservation of other people's lives.
Well, this has been a good one.
Yeah, this was definitely a good one. I enjoyed it.
I wasn't looking forward to this one because this one didn't stick into my head, like I said, as much as some other episodes do. The next mission is called Stratford Tower, and it involves Marcus and the rest of his band of merry men he's now acquired with merry men and women, including my favorite actress in the whole thing.
North?
What's that?
Is it North?
Yes, Minka Kelly's character, North.
Minka Kelly, yep.
So, but that one, the Stratford Tower episode, is one of the ones that stuck in my head as one of the good ones, out of many good ones in this game. So, I don't know. Are you done for the night? Or are you gonna stick around for another?
I can stick around for another if you're down.
Hell yeah, Stratford Tower coming up next. Then, what do you think about 5 minutes? 5 minutes?
Yep, we'll jump on in like 5 minutes and get another one going. This has been a good one, man. So for anyone, if you are jumping off at this point, thank you very much for checking us out. Go check us out at www.livemancave.com and check out our Discord channel. Did you throw up the Discord server in
all of that is up. Yep.
Perfect.
We're in Discord.
So that's all in there. You can go check that out. You can go see all the stuff. You can find out the.
If it's not flashing up on your screen right now, which I don't think it is, you can just rewind to the beginning of this episode.
Yeah. You can scroll back. I just can't see it, so I wasn't sure if you put it up in the beginning.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, man. So I will see you in like 5 minutes. We'll get the next one going.
Hell yeah.
Man, this beer is so fucking good. I am.
Yeah, and I'm gonna switch to another good one. I've kind of been looking forward to cracking for the next one.
Oh, is that gonna be your next one? All right, perfect. Let's take a break.
Yeah.
We will be back.
You staying with the same beer, or you gonna switch to another one?
It depends. Let me see on how much I have left. We'll figure it out. It's a game time decision. All right, man.
Cool.
On that note, thank you for checking us out. We will see you next time on Ready Player 2. Peace.